Hello and welcome to the best of the JP Peterson show for this Thanksgiving week. We hope you guys are going to have a terrific holiday, and we got a little feast for you. Some of the best interviews we've done over the past 6 months or so, some of our favorites. So we'll update you on some of the things going on here locally, and we'll get to some of our interviews, our favorite interviews. First and foremost, Bucs and Panthers coming up this Sunday for a big football treat. Huge game, obviously, for the Buccaneers. They're all big on the way into the playoff house, hopefully. If they can win 5 of their last 6 games, I think they're in. No question. If they get to 10, everybody in the Super Bowl era, and since they've expanded to the extra wild card, if you get 10 you're in. This week, the Panthers certainly been playing better. They've won 2 of their last 3 against the Saints at home, against the Giants at home, and then they took the Chiefs to the wire, and Pat Mahomes did what he normally does. So they lost by 3 last week, but the place was rocking. Dave Canales, former Bucs offensive coordinator, has them going. They've been playing better, but it's still a game the Bucs should win. They're favored by 6. The total is 46.5. That's because the Panthers have the worst scoring defense in the NFL. The Bucs have the 4th best scoring offense. I think this game is going to go over, and I think the Bucs should continue to win, and hopefully they'll go out and do what they did to the Giants, which is step on their neck early, get after Bryce Young. They're getting healthier on the defensive end as well. May get Tyke Smith back. So this is one the Bucs should win. But Panthers have been plucky. And these divisional games last year, the Bucs won 21-18 at home and then had to hold on for dear life at the end of the season to make the playoffs, winning 9-0. So this will not be easy. But the Bucs, if they're truly a playoff team, should get it done. Of course, Florida State and Florida will play in Tallahassee on Saturday night, same time as the Bolts will be playing. So I won't have to watch. The Gators are a 15.5-point favorite in that one. First time in over 40 years, maybe ever, that their 2 true freshman quarterback will be squaring off. DJ Lagway for the Gators, who's 4-1 as a starter, and of course beat Ole Miss last week and has been tremendous. Luke Kromenhoek will likely start for FSU. He had a nice day with 3 touchdown passes against Charleston Southern, the worst team in college football, not named Florida State. So expect the Gators to cover that number quite easily. All right, so for our interviews today, we're going to do one from about 4 months ago when Monty Kiffin passed. We had Rondé Barber on, and I just love this interview because it's basically not only reliving the life of Monty Kiffin, but kind of reliving that Super Bowl year and that great Monty Kiffin Tampa 2 defense. Rondé talks a lot about that. You're going to love that if you're an old-time Bucs fan. So we'll start off with that one. Also, this summer, we had Joe Maddon on, Rays former managers, about the time the Rays were doing their fire sale. So we chatted about that, but we just talked baseball and the modern game, things he likes, things he doesn't. Fascinating interview. Always fun to talk to Joe Maddon. So we'll have that for you as well. And speaking of baseball, we'll get into a few interviews we did last week that were news breaking. We had Ken Hagel on from the Hillsborough County Commission. He told us, broke the news that the Ybor site is still in play. The property is still available. And of course, they've already done the design work on it of the stadium, which I absolutely love. Right? A lot better than the Walmart they were going to build in St. Pete. More on that in a second. So we'll talk a little bit about that. We had the Ken Hagel interview on. We'll play that for you again. Some interesting things in there. He talks about how Hillsborough plans to pay for this. For all of you to say they don't have any money, it'll be interesting to get to listen to that. And some other really good nuggets in there from Ken Hagel on. And I'm just going to tell you this. I don't think Ken would be this aggressive. He had called a meeting this past week to have the mayor, Jane Castor, in, and all the key players to get something done, be ready to go if and when the deal goes kaput in St. Pete, and basically it is. So it just feels like there's a groundswell. I'm hearing a lot of things about a new ownership group on the horizon that wants to buy the Rays, move them to Tampa, the TSA working with their new SITS money that was just passed. It seems a lot of things are coming together. So we'll see how that goes. Not reporting it's done, just basically saying we're hearing there's a lot of things coming together, and you'll hear that from Ken Hagel. We also had Chris Latvala on from the county commission, breaking news with him as well. And he'll take you through the whole process and timeline of what the Rays were thinking, what they were doing before the bond issue was delayed. A lot of people pointing fingers, the Rays are at the county. It was the Rays that have pulled out of all these things. And now a letter has been sent from the county to the Rays. They have to basically in writing say whether they're terminating his deal, which is what they've said in the media multiple times. And you got to get that in writing, because then that will probably negate any real estate claims that they would have in the real estate deal. The Rays don't want to do that. So their answer has been very ambiguous. I don't expect them to send a termination letter. They're probably going to play this out legally so they can get that real estate, which is criminal, really, when you think about it, in my opinion. So we'll have those interviews as well, which should kind of shine a little bit of light on what's been happening with that. So enjoy the interviews. I'll be back at the end to kind of wrap everything up, what's going on with the Rays moving forward. So enjoy these interviews on your Thanksgiving break.
All right, well, let's bring in the Hall of Famer, the man, the myth. He is the great Rondé Barber on a bit of a somber day, but as I know you will, Rondé, we're going to celebrate the life of a man that was an absolute he was a treasure. He was a treasure and unique, one of one, icon, innovator, motivator, everything. Good morning to you, my friend. How are you?
Yeah, good morning. All those things times 1,000, JP. It's impossible to put words on it that I'm sure everybody else has already said. You know, read a couple of articles last night, this morning, trying to encompass what Monty Kiffin was to, I mean, not just us, but to professional football, college football.
Yeah.
The guy was absolute legend, and he did it with such a big heart, JP. It's impossible for any of us that played for him to not feel the loss. He was family. You know, this league, this sport has seen a lot of great men come and go. I would dare to say there's none quite as unique as Monty Kiffin did. The manner in which he did his job for us and for, you know, all the teams that he coached for, but, you know, most specifically the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, it was special. It was special, and everybody around the league knows it.
Well, before we get into the X's and O's of it, I want to touch on what you first mentioned and him as a human being. You know, it was kind of a velvet hammer, was it not? I mean, he would get after you guys. I was just telling the stories that just, you know, the most entertaining thing at training camp was just listening to Monty get after your ass. And
right.
And what was that like? Just knowing that he loved you so much and he would do anything for you and he had your back, but he was going to get after you.
Well, it was the expectation that he set in front of us long before you guys ever saw us on the field.
Yeah.
And it was you know, the rules with which we lived by were staked firmly in the ground prior to any of us ever backpedaling, you know, going and making a hit or a tackle. You know, we look at our agenda for the day every single day, JP, and it wasn't just, you know, going over the X's and O's or the, you know, the repping the concepts of cover two or whatever. It was, we're going to do key drill, we're going to do pursuit drill, we're going to do tackling drill, we're going to do the minutia so many times that by the time that we get to the aspects of our defense, we were already repped and prepared for what really mattered in the game, and that was hitting, tackling, and hustling. And the way that he did it, you know, it wasn't like putting his foot on our throat. He put it on us. He made those expectations our expectations,
mm-hmm.
so that we went out there and chased them our own. Last night, JP, we had a big Zoom with a bunch of guys that had been around, coaches, players, and the one thing that we talked about was Rod Marinelli and Lovie Smith sitting at the goal line with their thumbs up or thumbs down, whether or not we ran fast enough to get to the ball. And you know, those little things made Monty just an awesome coach. And I'll never forget the moments, the good and the bad, you know, because I came into this situation here in Tampa not quite good enough, as you know, and it was because of his belief in me, and then him allowing me to evolve as a player and then accelerate me as a player. The reason I became the football player that I did. But I'm going to miss him. I saw him recently. Obviously, he was at the Hall of Fame with me last year about this time, honestly. And you knew that his health was failing. You knew that he was just getting old. But the uniqueness that was Monty was still there. He was still alive at 84 years old. And it's a sad day.
That's so well put. And, you know, when you talk about the way he motivated you guys, Can you get into a little bit of that, like what some of the little sayings that he had, things that he would do kind of behind the scenes? Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, you know what, Monty was, when you talk about leadership, and obviously we always talk about football leadership, we talk about the guys on the field, but leadership in our building was Monty, and it was unique. And I think I don't know who said it. It's probably Julius Caesar. It's an old quote. But when you're talking about leadership, it said you got to give them the bread, the X's and O's, all the stuff that they need to know, and the circuses. And Monty was an entertainment man. Yeah, he was funny. He was serious. He was smart as hell. Even though he would say, "This is insight." He was like, "Hey man, you know where I went to school, right?" And we were like, "Yeah, we know you went to Nebraska, Monty." And he goes, "Well, you know what that N on the helmet stands for, right?" And we were like, "No, Monty." He goes, "Stands for knowledge." Just give us quotes like that all the time, man. And we come into the meeting room on Saturday, and over the years, this evolved into your assistant coaches, Mike Tomlin, Raheem, some of the younger guys, Jimmy Lake, taking over the DJ booth. But when Monty had the DJ booth, he would come in and I feel good. James Brown is playing, and he'd get up and start doing his little shimmy, and he gave us everything that we needed to be, not just robots on a football field, right. Not just doing our jobs on the football field, but also, becoming, lively men, well-rounded, and that's what he was, and the consistency with which he came to work every single day, that energy, unparalleled, man. It's unparalleled.
Rondé, I covered the Cowboys when he was here with the Cowboys in the early teens. Talked to several Cowboys players about Monty back in the day and since. And they always told me that they likened him to more of a college-style coach than a pro coach for them, because he was always more of trying to be a father figure for them and, helping them, kind of treating them like teenagers that needed to be, molded a little bit, and helping them with not just football, but with life. Did you kind of get that impression too?
Yeah, that's exactly who he was. I mean, I texted Lane and Heidi yesterday and had to pass it on to Chris as well. But I was like, we all feel this loss because he wasn't just our coach. He was family, and even when you were gone, even when you were done playing, or after, in my case, after he left to go to work with his son in Tennessee and then California and then wherever else, he'd always stay in touch. He'd call you and be like, and I'm sure he knew this already, but he would call me and be like, "Ronnie, what was that one play against Washington in 1999? And I'm like, "Yeah, Monty, it was the play." Da, da, da. He's, yeah, that's it. Do you remember what you were thinking on that play? And you're like, maybe, I don't know, but he just wanted to talk. He
just wanted to call and talk to you. Yeah,
he wanted to live football. And that your point is well taken, because normal coaches don't do that. Only guys that have father figure roles in your life care enough for you to continue to be that for you. And Monty was definitely it. I mean, we lost a good one, man. His influence spread so far, we probably don't even recognize how many Monty disciples there are. But there's a bunch of head coaches, a bunch of coordinators. There's loads and loads of assistants that are still in the NFL, probably in college, that go to work every day. And what they learned under Monty, they're still using in their meeting rooms and on the field now.
Rondé Barber joining us here. I said earlier that you used to call him this too, the mad scientist. We all did. And I swear Christopher Lloyd must have met Monty Kiffin somewhere along and patterned that Doc Brown character after Monty. It was a dead ringer. Am I lying?
That's exactly right.
But give me some insight into his intellect, maybe a story or two of where, and it wasn't just the Tampa 2 concepts. It was breaking down film on a weekly basis, and he would see things that maybe other people didn't see, and then translate them to you guys to execute. Right?
Yeah, Monty. I mean, obviously, we called him mad scientist because he'd come up with all kinds of blitzes and not really coverages. We were pretty sound coverage wise. We played cover 2. We played forms of cover 3. We talked about doing quarters coverage, which is very, very vogue today, but we only did it very sparingly. But Monty spent his time, and I mean spent his time, like never left the building, spending his time coming up with ways to solve problems. So, I don't know if you know this, but the way that we ran our defense, we would name almost every single play that we got. So somebody ran a play against us and we had never seen it before, or it was unique and we didn't stop it. He would name it after the team that ran against us, right? So it would be, say, the Philly play or the Tennessee Titans play. And he would go through an entire off season and try to figure out how to solve those problems, right? And so when we came into work in the next season, somebody get up there and draw Titan play, whatever. All right, this is how we're going to play it versus this coverage. This is how we're going to play it versus this X coverage. And when we run a blitz, this is going to cover this up. And he was always so detailed in it because he'd spent so much time, thinking about on the couch, honestly, trying
at the old
one buck, where all the rats and coaches were, man, and trying to figure out how to solve it. So his intellect was really his hard work, and we were all aware of it. It's not as if any of us just realized he did this on the spur of the moment. I got the solution. We knew he put the work in, so we all wanted to put the work in too because he did that work. I know he drove his assistants crazy. I remember when Raheem was first here as assistant to Mike T, and if Monty was in the building, he had to be in the building. Same with Jimmy Lake, same with all these young coaches that came through here. It was like Monty would just grind you to a halt, but he was also very mindful of their time, and I think they all knew that they were going to be rewarded for the work that he put in and that we collectively put in. And I mean, there's a reason the Pro Football Hall of Fame gave him the award for excellence this year. It was probably long overdue. I mean, you got Hall of Famers in there. I mean, somebody's responsible, and the head coach is already there. So it was nice to see that award was bestowed on him before he passed, because I know how much it would have meant to him.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was great. It was great to see him and enjoy that and feel that. And I hate to call him an assistant coach. I try to just call him a coach, and people would say, why did Monty never become a head coach? And they would ask me, and I would say, it's just, it wouldn't be right. I don't, it would somehow change him. And I would never want to see that. I know I'm not expressing this in the right way, but can you express it?
Yeah, you're saying the right things. There's a minutia that comes with being a head coach that just didn't fit his personality. There's the
much better
dealing with guys like you on a daily basis, right? You only have to talk to you guys once a week. It's having to lord over an entire team and make decisions with your front office. And not that he couldn't do that, but it really just didn't fit his MO. His MO was I'm gonna put my head down. I'm going to figure out how to make whatever problem that we have better for our players, and then I'm going to go, figure out how to call a game. Having to deal with all the other stuff, I just don't think it just wasn't him. And like you said, I mean, this is a kind of a tongue-in-cheek comment that we keep making about him, but he was Doc Brown. He was a mad scientist, man. Like, I don't think that interviewed well.
Exactly. When he interviewed for head coaching, and how many head coaches have we seen, that just should have stayed assistant coaches? Should have know your lane.
Hey,
and right?
It's a hard lane to stay in sometimes, because the money looks different in that lane than it does in this lane. But there's a reason Monty was at one point the highest paid assistant in the NFL. At one point, he was the highest paid assistant in college football. The guy had an energy to him that I think redefined how you coach. And if anybody was ever around him as a coach, that's the bare minimum energy. Like, you better have more than that to be better than Monty Kiffin was. So he was special, man. And I think we're all realizing it as you hear and talk to more people about him. More and more of these types of stories will come out, and people will really understand what he was. He wasn't just Tampa 2 defense. Right. He was a lot more than that.
I had an opportunity to talk to him again when he was here in Dallas about back when he was at Nebraska. He was there, of course, with Tom Osborne when the head coaching job became available. And it was between him and Tom. And, of course, Tom got picked, and he stayed on as the DC. And I remember asking him, I was with a couple of other reporters there. I was like, well, how do you think it'd have gone if you'd have taken over instead of Tom as the head coach? He's like, oh, Tom, wonderful. They did everything they could under him. Fine job, national championships. It was the right decision. And then as everybody's walking away, he looks at me. He kind of goes tongue in cheek. He goes, I don't want more titles.
Well, he went to NC State. He was a head coach for 3 years there.
Yeah.
And I can't remember what his record was. He always talks about it as, that was one of my average periods in life. But everybody knew how talented the dude was. It was just, it's hard to be a head coach. And obviously you go to Nebraska, especially then, you're going to win because you had all the talent in the world. Obviously, it's changed now, but
150 players on scholarship too.
Exactly.
The old days.
Back in the Big 8 days, man.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Do you have a couple just Monty stories that you could share?
Yeah, I got so many Monty stories, man.
Go ahead.
Monty and I had a unique relationship because at one point in the whole Tampa kind of deal, I wasn't part of that big three, so I remember those years when I was trying to come up and trying to prove my self-worth and my worth to the team. And I think Monty always kind of, I want to say he didn't want to believe that I was as good as I was at first, right? But then I got on the field my second year and he was like, oh, okay, this kid can play, right? But the story where he couldn't pronounce my name, right? Where I said it in my Hall of Fame speech. He called me Randy all the time, and then I ran with everything. He's like, Randy, Rondé, whatever. We're calling you Randy. But it was affectionate, That story was phenomenal. One of the best stories I have about Monty, and it was really a story about our belief in each other. It was in 2008 when we drafted Aqib Talib, and he was gonna. Midway through the season, he was gonna bench me, and we had a long week. It wasn't a great week, I'll say that. Me and Monty have had a lot of good weeks. This was not a good week. And then we get on Friday, and he pops into my office, or my confiscated office down at the new One Buck. It was an old players' meeting room where I used to watch film, and we had it out. We had a long talk. I won't say what was said in there, but come to work on Monday, and he tells me, I can't do it. Rondé's starting. I just can't do it. You gave me too much to this franchise, to this team. Nobody else wants you to not start except for me. And you're going to play. You're going to start this weekend. I'm still going to play, but he's like, you're going to start this weekend. I was against Detroit in 2008, and I went out and had interception for a touchdown. And I was telling these guys last night when I was talking to them, it was like, think about it. It was 2008, JP. Like I was seeing the end of my career right, like that week.
Yeah.
It springboarded the next 4 years of my career, which certainly got me to where my final destination in pro football. But it was because of Monty's belief in me. Like he was trying to not offend me. What I needed. And Monty Kiffin gave that to me. And I'm sure he didn't do that on purpose. But it's kind of a deep dive into what our relationship was like, even when I was 32 or 33 years old. And I give all the credit in the world to Monty Kiffin. He put me on my path, man. And I'll forever be grateful for it.
That's a hell of a story.
Yeah,
that's a hell of a story. And the Tampa too.
Mm-hmm.
Take me through the evolution of that, because it evolved, right? It's just, and it evolved. As I said in the beginning, Monty loved smart football players and demanded it. And I just went through the roster of your Super Bowl team, and that was the years leading up to. And I said, every one of those guys, football IQ off the freaking charts.
Yes.
So take us in the back room, how it evolved and how that, Monty's intelligence fed through your intelligence, the players, and it just became this like, organic defense that could adjust to anything on the fly.
Yeah, I'll try not to make this too long of an answer here, JP, because the evolution is significant. So, this defense started back in Pittsburgh in the 70s. And what was unique about Tampa 2 versus regular cover 2 is that you needed a middle linebacker. In our case, it was Hardy Nickerson. and then it was Shelton Quarles. Jamie Duncan was in there for a minute, but it was guys that had the athleticism to run through the middle of the field. So essentially, you had two high safeties. You also had a middle run-through player coming between those safeties that covered up the middle part of the field. So the deep middle was never occupied. So you do the math on that, and you're vacating the middle of the field with a middle linebacker. And so now you only have two underneath defenders. One was the Will linebacker, one was the Sam linebacker / the nickel. So the reason why Derek and I made so many plays is because we had to understand that there's a third guy missing there, and the two seam droppers, me and Derek, had to make all those underneath plays. And there's really only one way to do that, and that's to understand the concepts that are coming at you. That's why we named all our plays. That's why we had to have that like nonverbal communication about what was going to happen to us. So think about it in simple terms, right? In every offensive set, you can only have 5 releasers, right? You only have 5 releasers, whether it's tight ends, receivers, running backs, whatever. Wherever that third releaser vacated to, whatever side of the field, that was primarily where the quarterback was looking to go. You just had to know that, right? So if I'm the nickel back on the right side and a third receiver comes to my area, I have to work outwards towards that. And then the other seam defender, who only has 2 over here, has to start cheating that way. Yeah. And it was like this dance between the underneath linebackers or coverage guys, me and Derek, or Derek and the Sam linebacker, and we just perfected it. And then it evolved from there into like really jumping routes. That's why I had so many interceptions at nickel. That's why Derek had so many interceptions at will linebacker, because there was nothing you could give us that we hadn't already seen or had named or understood what was coming at us. And then we knew we were protected the whole time with the middle linebacker in the middle of the field.
You had help, right?
Yeah. Right? 2 corners in the flat. That's what Tampa 2 became. But then we got really good at disguising Tampa 2 and running blitzes off of it, and quarterbacks going, what the hell is going on right now? It's like Rondé was supposed to be a seam dropper. Now he's blitzing through the A gap. The safety was supposed to be dropping into cover 2, and now Dexter Jackson's coming off the edge. It was a really neat to be in a defense that was simple enough for everybody to understand, but free enough where we could just kind of create whatever magic we needed to each particular week. And Monty was the architect of all that, and he let us be organic, like you said, and he let us go chase, making plays. There's a reason why we led the league in sacks, yardage allowed, interceptions,
takeaways,
particular stat you want to name. At one point during that 10-year run, let's say, we were the best in the league at it, and it was pretty awesome to be a part of.
Best defense ever? I know where your vote is.
I think so. I mean, if you need greatness at each level to be considered the greatest of all time, we had it. And obviously we had a great head coach in Tony, and we had a great defensive coordinator in Monty.
Both in the Hall of Fame. Lynch,
yeah. You just put the numbers on it, and I would say that if we're not in the discussion, people are blinded by hubris.
The name Tampa.
Yes,
it's not. This is we know the prejudice towards the small market Tampa.
Yes.
We know all about that. And I think, and to wrap this up, Rondé, it comes back to trust, human connection between you and your coach and your player and your players.
Yep.
And it's that, I've seen it in these championship teams. It is family. I know it sounds a little trite and cliche, but it's just like family. It's like brothers. It's like that's your dad. You don't want to disappoint him, but you can yell at him and he can yell at you. And at the end, you're still going to love each other. You're going to get the point across. The intensity is going to be there. And that's the secret sauce. That's the key to success. It comes down to relationships and trust.
Well, people want to say on any particular Sunday, you have to be there for each other. But the reality is, it's Monday after the game. It's the Tuesday you're off day. You're taking care of yourself. You're taking care not to put yourself in a position where we're no longer going to be able to help the team. Are you coming to work on Wednesday and learning and then grinding on that afternoon's practice, and Thursday to perfect it, and then Friday to tie a bow on it, and then take care of yourself Friday night before you go on the road or playing at home on Saturday in the hotel? We had that, and it was largely because Monty Kiffin like I said earlier, put that expectation on us. And there was no deviating. There was no excuses. There was no explanations. All you had to do was show up and do your job, and we would win. And he made it that simple. No excuses, no explanations. Show up and do your job, hustle and hit, and we will win. And we did. You know, Monty's a unique individual, man. I'll end with this, JP. The guy was 84 years old, and Peyton Manning texted me last night, and I told him the story. And I don't know if a lot of people knew this, but Monty was born in 1940. You know what 1940 was? A leap year. He was born on 1940 on February 29th. He died in a leap year.
I did not know that.
2024. So technically, Monty was only 21 years old.
Yeah. I only had 21.
I told Peyton last night, I was like, only the good die young. He was 21. He was a hell of a young man at 84. It was pretty special.
What a man. Can I sneak in one question about this Bucs offseason? How you feeling? I feel like I'm not being objective about this team, but I feel like Jason just did such an unbelievable job.
Yeah,
this team is ready to do something special. If not this year, maybe next year. But it filled every hole. I love the defense. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I'm probably not ready to answer all my Bucs questions because I haven't yet dove into to where the roster has developed yet. I mean, I will here probably next week, but I'll answer that question by saying something I've been saying all year, actually. And I didn't get this from Jason. I didn't get it from John or Mike Beal or Greeny or Jackie or all these other guys in the front office, Rob McCartney.
Yeah.
Dude, we don't give them enough credit for what they've done for this football team over the last decade. It's incredible what they've done. How they've remodeled, retweaked, added here, subtracted there at precisely the right time. Jason Light doesn't get nearly the credit he should for a team that he continues to put together. The winning team. We won 4 straight NFC South championships, and you can say all you want to about the South being weak. You still have to go out and win games when they matter, and they have. I feel good about this team just like I felt good about them last year. I love the energy that Baker brings. What I don't know is how good Liam Cohen is. I think he's a good player. A good offensive coordinator. He made Baker a good player the latter part of his time in LA.
Yeah, crazy.
Before he went to Kentucky for a year. And I think the offense will evolve even more under him. He's got great energy. I think they've made the right moves. Signing Mike back, getting Levante back, and most importantly, probably getting Jordan Whitehead back. I mean, for me, if you paid any attention to the Bucs 3 years ago, whenever I talked about the Bucs, I talked about Jordan Whitehead, dude.
Yep.
He is a hell of a football player. And adding him to Antoine, who is the best safety in football, by the way, I think solidifies that backfield. We need Zion to come along. He needs to turn into the player he looks like he should be. He had a great offseason. Watched some of their practice film. He had a great offseason. And I think we got better up front on the offensive line, man. Just bringing in Graham Barton, man. The guy's different. I mean, personality-wise, he's different. Physically, he's different. I think we all figured out that Luke Gedeke is a better offensive tackle than he was offensive guard.
Much better.
Those questions can just go out the window. People should just shut the hell up and say and just realize that he's a good player. I like where we're at. I like the running back we drafted. He's dynamic. He'll help us. Again, they made great moves. Jason Light does not get enough credit. They made it.
We were promised a boat parade if you got it all done, and I'm it's gassed up and ready. I mean, where are we at, Jason? Let's go. We're all going to beer can.
That happens, JP. I'm making the trip to Tampa. I'm getting on the boat.
Come on up. You'd enjoy it. You would.
I would. Oh, for sure.
3 years ago today, we were doing the Lightning boat parade.
Yeah.
So let's get it done. We need another one. Rondé, I thank you, man. I always appreciate you're always there when I call you, especially in moments like this. And the tribute you just gave to that man is absolutely fantastic. We're going to spread it out over social media. You're a treasure. You are a treasure, my friend. And I thank you so much for all your support. You're the best. Thank you.
I love being on with you, buddy. Love you, dude.
Thanks. Thanks, my brother. Love you. I love you, man. The great Rondé Barber right there. Hey, it's football season, and we welcome back the Gator Report every Monday and Friday, sponsored by the Jeeves Law Group, Jeeves lawgroup.com. Just go to the website. You can contact them through there. Scott Jeeves is a tremendous, aggressive attorney and a big Gator fan, so we appreciate him supporting this show and, of course, your Florida Gators. They are local, they are trusted, and they get results, whether it's personal injury or anything else, any law matter at all. It's the Jeeves Law Group, Jeeves lawgroup.com. Give them a call. Tell them JP sent you. So many of our Tampa Bay neighbors are finding out the hard way from Hurricane Helene that homeowners insurance does not cover flood damage. You must have flood insurance. It's a separate policy. Immediately call Italiano Insurance at 813-877-7799, and they will shop around to find the best policy before rates go up. Lock it in. Over 60% are underinsured in Florida, or you're not getting your discounts that you're entitled to. So do an insurance checkup at Italiano, and they could save you thousands of dollars. Italiano will make sure you're with a highly rated insurer, so there are no surprises in your time of need. Our hearts go out to all our neighbors devastated by Helene. These are the times we're proud to protect all the pieces of your life. Italiano Insurance, 813-877-7799. Old Hurricane Helene put a hurting on Tampa Bay, and for many of you, the rebuild will be a long process. You must beware of unscrupulous contractors offering up quick fixes for incredible prices. It's a scam. So go with long-standing, reputable companies like Third Generation Plumbing and AC. My friend John Rodriguez has been serving Tampa Bay since 1995 with hundreds of 5-star reviews. If you need a new AC system or any home repairs from Helene, they will work with insurance companies to get you taken care of quickly, expertly installed, of course, and a 1-year maintenance plan and 10-year warranty included on all AC units. 0% financing for 60 months. Contact them at thirdgenerationplumbing.com or 813-961-8024. That's 813-961-8024, thirdgenerationplumbing.com.
Ciao, Paolo Tini here, owner of Caffè Paradiso, one of South Tampa premier traditional Italian restaurant. We were recently voted number 3 on Open Table list of Tampa Bay's top 10 restaurants. We're very proud of that because we take great care of preparing each dish by hand with homemade sauces, pastas, only the freshest local ingredients. You won't see the big institutional vendor trucks pulling up to our back door. We get our seafood from local vendors. Sometimes I even drive out to Tarpon Springs and pick out our daily catch right off those boats. So stop by and say hello. Try our traditional lasagna, the fresh veal, some of our signature dishes like capelli al granchio, that is angel hair with lump crab meat, our branzino, that is a sea bass. We're located at 4205 South McDill, and you can make a reservation on Open Table and read all the great reviews. See you soon. Ciao. Grazie.
Let's go.
Right now, back to the show on FanStream Sports.
So pleased to welcome in the man that took the Rays to the 2008 World Series and gave us so many good moments of Rays baseball, the great Joe Maddon joining us here. And, of course, the man who broke the curse of the Cubs, a World Series champion. How are you, Joe? Great to see you.
JP, I'm doing wonderfully. I'm in Pennsylvania. Got this really cool home in a valley, and I'm loving every day. But the tomato plants are starting to turn red, and that makes it even better.
How much better is the sauce with fresh tomatoes?
Always, everything's better with fresh anything. I got got the parsley there. I got some potatoes, sweet potatoes, some nayu berries, all kinds of stuff. It's my first attempt. I just built a greenhouse as an addition to the place, so I'm checking it all out this year.
Beautiful, man. Well, I've always used the canned tomatoes for the sauce. Roxy D'Amelia, my mom, taught me that, the nice canned peeled tomatoes.
Yeah.
Put them in the blender to start with your base. We won't go through the whole sauce recipe, but the fresh tomatoes is something I want to try too. So we'll definitely do that.
Same page.
Yeah. All right. Hey, well, first and foremost, Joe, there's a little fire sale going on in Tampa Bay right now.
I know.
Six players, including Randy Arozarena, Jason Adam, Itzhak Paredes to your Cubs, Zach Eflin, Aaron Savali, Phil Maton. I know you've been through this song and dance here in Tampa Bay, and the fans are going bananas. So maybe a kind word to explain to the fans what exactly is happening here.
First of all, when you look at all those names collectively like that, it's pretty good. I mean, those are good players. That's a really nice chunk of good. While I was there, I can't remember that much of a mass exodus. I don't remember that. I remember, David left, James left, Shieldsy, and I think Garza left at different points, but it was never like this glut. So I never had to really absorb all of that. I mean, it's just the way of the world there right now, and it's not just there, but it's every team that has that opportunity to cut costs and build a talent base. They're going to do it this time of the year. It just seems like it's part of the fabric. I sometimes I don't quite understand why you don't keep players like that and augment. It really comes down to how your perception of things are or is. And I think for them, for sure, they thought, yeah, we have a chance to get to the playoffs this year. But their inner conversation was probably to the point where even if we do, we're not going to advance too deeply. And why not take advantage of this moment? So as a fan base down there, you're used to it by now. It's nothing new. And it's happened before, and it's always turned out well. So just fasten your seatbelts and know that it's going to be okay.
The Paredes deal, I thought there's a good young player, hit 30 bombs last year, can play first base. I know they want to open up a spot for Caminero, but Paredes, I thought that was a strange one for me. But they get Christopher Morel back from the Cubs, who hit 26 last year, 18 already this year. That's a piece, at least a major league piece, that the fans can say, okay, this guy's got a chance to be a great player.
He does. I mean, he's a great body, live body kind of a guy. Watching a little bit, he's a big swinger, which they all are these days, right? Everything's evaluated based on the number of home runs. And I know how that plays in the slug and OPS, et cetera. But that's all you hear. I don't really know how good they are on defense. I don't know how good of base runners they are. I do have no idea about their instincts for the game. I mean, these are the kind of questions we would always ask in meetings when you're talking about upgrading or acquisition. It went beyond power. It's always about power. And when you talk about pitchers, it's always about how hard they throw and velocity and things of that nature. So listen, of course they're strong and they're young and they probably are going to hit a lot of home runs. And that's just the way the game's played right now. You got to put the ball in the seats. Although occasionally a team will show the ability to move the ball, create runs and whatever. And all of a sudden that becomes like very popular discussion for the day. So it's whatever you want, but that's how guys are evaluated, and that's how guys are paid. You're compensated for homers, and that's what they try to do.
Are you? Well, I read your book, so I know you're saddened by this. All those things that you mentioned earlier were the way I grew up playing baseball. With the prototypical leadoff hitters, you don't even see that anymore. It's not a good way for me. I just don't like baseball that way. I know you would agree with that.
Yeah, it's just a different game, and you're supposed to accept that because people say it's different. It's a different game. They talk about progress and using those kind of words. And I don't know. For me, progress is not always a positive. Being progressive is not always a positive word. What does it mean? It just means somebody had a different thought. They implemented it, and because it's new, they think it's a progressive thought, not necessarily understanding whether or not it's making something better. And I was talking to somebody about this just yesterday. Our game, it's obviously was different in 1970, 1990, 2010 than it was in 18, whatever. Of course it was. But nevertheless, it was still a traditionally based game with some really strong tenets attached to it that was attractive. That was very attractive. And there was a kind of this traditional component to it that is absolutely being torn apart right now. It doesn't have that traditional feel. Now, there's great athletes in the game. No question, no argument whatsoever. And I love that part of it. It's just the way the game's being taught or not taught and what's important and what's not important anymore. So if you want to remain a fan of the game, you're going to have to make adjustments because this is how the game's going to be played to the point where it really appears as though the players are pretty much in control over everybody else, whether it's front offices or managers or coaches, whatever. So that's why what Alex Curt did yesterday, I guess it was, really stands out because he had a conversation with O'Neill in the dugout who's been doing well. He's been home runs, nice player. And he's going to pitch it for him with Abreu. But he goes straight to him, tells him exactly what's going on and why, and the player accepted it. That to me is the way it should be done. It's a tough conversation. It's a tough conversation league game where you have to be able to be honest with your guys. They have to be able to accept it. May not like it, but when you tell a major league or professional player honestly what you think and then go ahead and do it, he might not like you briefly, but eventually he's going to come back to you as opposed to you dissembling and not giving him straight up. That's what I saw in that moment.
Joe Maddon joining us here. And Joe, I could hear you were the best communicator I've ever seen in terms of, I've worked with a lot of good coaches over my days, but the way you communicated and built trust with your players, is that something that you can still do in this day and age with these players? Is it just a different give and take between the manager and the player these days? Are those things just everlasting?
I think they are. The communication is communication. I mean, I've always felt contemporary. I mean, there's certain music I still don't like it, but I never liked it. There's methods of dress that I'm wide open to. Culturally, whatever's going on today, I think I'm kind of up to date and progressive in that regard. So I think, of course, when it comes right down to it, I think it's just how open you are with whomever you're speaking with. So we're talking about a Major League Baseball player right now. I've always felt, and even back when I began, it really stood out to me that even veteran players back in the 80s and 90s that I worked with when I went to Major League camp, they wanted to hear what you had to say, because they trusted what I was saying and the fact that I was straight up with them. I don't think that ever gets old. I don't think that ever gets old. I think as a human being, whomever you're working with, you just want to know that they're giving it to you straight up. You want to know that you can trust them. And that if you went to them, I don't want a warm fuzzy. Just tell me what's going on. Tell me what you're seeing. Tell me what you think, not what you've heard. So I have to believe that never goes out of date. That should always be in vogue. And so that's for me. I mean, given an opportunity, again, that's exactly where I would come from. As open and just a wide open. Here it is. This is what I think, what I feel. Okay, now your turn. What do you think? What do you feel? And I'd be open in return. I think that's the best way to communicate.
Joe Maddon joining us here. And Joe, you mentioned it. Are you open to coming back? It just has to be the perfect situation. I know it would have to be someone that's open to not trying to shove analytics down your throat, and it would give you some leeway and some autonomy to be the manager that you are.
Yeah, you have to. If you're going to be that. I mean, I think GM should GM. I think owners should own. I think managers should manage. I think coaches should coach. I think analysts should analyze. But when you start walking in other people's territory constantly, you just don't trust them. Why did you hire them in the first place? What is the job description here? What do you want me to do? If you don't feel that kind of autonomy to make decisions as a manager, then you won't think to the point, you won't analyze it, or you won't intellectualize it to the point, because it's not yours. Right. You only get to that level of intellectual thinking if you know it's your baby. You're rocking your own baby in your arms. This is very important that I make a good decision right here. I'm not to say that that's void of asking other people's opinions. Of course not. No, it's not true. I always want other people's opinions, and I want to hear what people have to say before I eventually do what I think is the right thing to do. But that's what you're paid to do. So I think it's the line's been blurred between owners owning, GMs GMing, managers managing, and coaches coaching. And the other thing I've talked about this before, the analysts. I love them. Listen, if I get a chance to do it again, I'm going to personally go to MIT, Harvard, Yale, Lafayette College, and I'm going to interview these guys because I want the best. But once you have these guys, understand one thing, they're going to answer to the coaches, and the coaches don't have to answer to them. I think you should create a synergy among your analysts and the coaching staff where there's a trust flowing back and forth. And when you arrive at that point on a major league level, or any level, any industry, then you really got something going on. But if there's suspicion either way, it just never really galvanizes to the point where everybody feels good about it.
Joe Maddon joining us here today. We just recently had an interesting series with the Yankees where Jose Siri and Juan Soto were having a stroll off to see who could take the longest home run trot, and all the histrionics that go with it these days. And then Michael Kay on the Yankees network basically said, I just don't get it. I just don't get it. And I'm obviously a huge Rays fan, but I'm just like, there is a line. For God's sakes, there's a line. I don't mind the bat flips and some of these other things. And organic emotion, and sharing that with your teammates, everybody loves that. But some of this stuff is just gone crazy. Your thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a kind of a downgrading of deviant methods right now, where which was not acceptable before is now acceptable. And this is part of the progressive way of thinking. And you keep hearing that, you want the players to to have fun, and I'm all about that, as you know. Yeah, to the point where they're demonstrative in a way that really just is there to draw attention to themselves and their brand, however you want to call it. Bat flips to me are boring. I don't get it. I'm okay with like if it's a walk-off home run, if you want to really, okay. And if you're Dennis Eckersley, you're punching out the last hitter of the game, yeah, go ahead and do that. But all these other moments of demonstrative behavior, and it's just part of the way we function as a society anymore. True. It's become very superficial, I think. And again, it's fawned upon, and it's asked for, and it's accepted. Okay, so that's progress. That's what I'm talking about. Those are kind of progressive methods that we're supposed to accept, that I don't agree with. I watched the Yankee game the other night. Last night, Chisholm, right? Jazz was there. Yeah. So they're leading 7-2, and he has a tough play at second base. He's safe. Tough ran into the guy's elbow. That's got back up. I liked it, but then he steals third base, and they're up 7-2. I think it's in the ninth inning. Yeah. And everybody goes wild. He starts gesturing into the dugout. They're all like throwing blown kisses back at him. That would have gotten you hurt. That would have actually gotten you hurt at some point. Or the guy coming up or the next pitch would have gotten you hurt. Right or wrong? I don't know. I just like that method of playing the game where there was, listen, the object of the game is to always score runs. I get that, and I'm all about that. And I had my arguments about this when I was a race manager, when sometimes people thought we stepped on these unwritten rules. However, that was accepted to the point, and everybody's like blowing upon it. And then today I'm listening to the recap, and he had one hit, which was kind of an infield hit, and he stole a base, which was they're up by 7-2, and there was nobody was holding him on, and nobody was covering third base. So this is the kind of the parts of the game right now that it just needs to be reeled in a little bit. Let's make it more real.
Yeah, I agree. Joe Maddon joining us here. Joe, if I may, can we stroll down memory lane? Back to 2007, and you see this team starting to come together, this Rays team, before you make it to the World Series. When did you know something was happening special, and what were some of the touch points that led to that magical season, and what followed all the playoff appearances after?
Well, I tell you, weirdly, this doesn't stand out, but I thought was and I've said it 1,000 times, not 1,000, maybe 52 times before, when we acquired Danny Wheeler for Ty Wigginton. I love Ty Wigginton. He is such a wonderful teammate. But we traded him for Danny. I think it was to Houston, right? So Danny comes in, and not that Danny was lights out, but he was really good. Didn't throw hard. He was a pitcher. He made pitches. But what Danny did, he taught all those bullpen guys how to work and how to prepare for the day. Because we had a lot of kids at that time that were definitely on the entitlement program, and they just loved being major league players. They loved flying on chartered airlines. They loved nice hotels, meal money. They loved all that stuff, but they didn't love winning and didn't love how to win. So Danny came in and changed the culture. So even towards the end of that season, we played actually okay for a long time, but we weren't winning games because we couldn't close them down. Danny taught that group how to do that. And when they did, we started winning games at the end of 2007. So we went into 2008 with some momentum there internally. And I really believe that's one of the seminal moments in the shift of the franchises, is acquiring Danny Wheeler. And then that next off season, a couple things. New uniforms mattered. Changing the name mattered. And then on top of that, Percy, Percival, Cliff Floyd, and Eric Hinsky. Wonderful acquisitions that don't happen anymore. Nobody goes and buys the experienced players anymore to augment. It's either the superstar or the inexpensive rookie. The middle class has really kind of been phased out. But those three guys had as much influence on us winning as, of course, Longo. Couldn't do it without Longo, of course. Garza, Jason, JB, Crawford. Absolutely. Carl and BJ and all these guys. Absolutely. But the glue, the gel right there that really made it work was those three guys and their impact they had in the clubhouse. That was very, very big and large. That was outstanding. So to me, Wheeler, and I guess I'm talking about a bunch of veterans that came in, and taught our younger players, this is how you do it, not like you've been doing it. And that was it. And I like even with the Cubbies when we got David Ross that offseason in 2015.
Yeah.
I talked to him on the phone. I parked my car. I was in Tampa. I was in my convertible, and we talked for a while. And I knew this is a difference maker, Mickey Montero, difference maker. So these are the kind of things when you're trying to win, really win. It's the fusion between the superstar, the real established good players, and these youngsters that you absolutely need to instill some a breath of fresh air. But who are the glue guys?
Right.
Don't forget the glue guys. Pay attention there.
I really think that's what the Rays have been missing this year, and most recently they need those Floyd, the Percivals, those guys.
Mm-hmm.
Those are important additions.
Well, with 1 year we had Gabe Kapler. Cap was so big. I remember specifically talking to Gabe. He'd come in my office often, and I said, "Listen, I really need you to do a couple things for me." I said, "Just when something is breaking down a little bit among the players, it's going to work so much better if it's coming from you." So,
right,
whomever the player was, I said, "Listen, when you get a chance, mosey by the locker. This is what I'm seeing. This is what I think. Then go ahead and put it in your own words and go talk to the fellow." And he was great at it. He was Cap was a great communicator. So, another wonderful example of the kind of player you need. Look at the Phillies right now. The Phillies are good because they're just loaded with those guys. They're loaded with charisma, personality. They play it hard. They play it right. And then they're alumni. Bo is around. Crucky's around. Schnitty's around. All these dudes are around. That matters, man. When you have a real strong alumni. That's what the Cubbies had, too, that I love. Now, the Rays, their alumni is scattered more than these other traditionally based groups. Yeah, I love the alumni, and I want them back to. I love when they're around.
Yeah, I've said that many times. The Rays don't seem to embrace those guys very much. I'd love to see them do that.
Well, that was one of the first things I asked for. I got Roberto Hernandez to make Davey Martinez when Davey was there. I asked for Davey immediately. He didn't want to do it at first, but I so appreciated the way he played the game, and I wanted him to be there on the coaching staff, and he was. And I had Boggsy around, I had Freddie around, all the dudes came around. Tino came around. But you need them there all the time, not just cameos, So getting those kind of guys in your clubhouse is great. And then the cameo appearances, I misspoke that. I do like the cameos. I do like those guys. Ryan Sandberg. I love Ryan Sandberg. Yeah, do I love Ryan Sandberg? Randy Hundley, Fergie Jenkins, Billy Williams, Billy D, the best. Billy D, I called him Billy D. Billy Williams, I love. So you need that combination of the alumni, and then within your clubhouse, some really guys, some real guys, some grown-ups to say, we don't do that here.
Well, Joe, I appreciate your time. You catch a Springsteen show lately? You still rocking it, bro?
Yeah. I'm going to try to. Yeah, I did. I started out with the Wild in the City Street Shuffling, greetings from Asbury Park. I'm going to try to get down to see Eddie better in Philadelphia in September. Eddie and I still stay in touch. We've become good friends. So that would be the next one I think I'd try to get to. Otherwise, just a lot of golf, a couple personal appearances. I was just down to the All-Star game for a day. But more than anything, golf. I mean, and my home. I'm like, my tomato plants are right there. We're talking about that. I really
come back and play here? Can you come back, be my guest here at Palma City?
Of course.
Come play with me?
I just joined St. Pete Country Club. I'm a member of St. Pete. They're redoing it, tee box, the greens, and everything in between. Yeah. So when I come back down there, I'd love Palma City. Yes, I'd be happy. We'll stay in touch. I'd love to do that. No question.
Sounds good. Joe, thanks so much for your time. Really appreciate it. And hope you get back into games soon, my friend.
Thank you, buddy. Back there. Hi to everybody back down there. Still one of my favorite places on earth. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, folks, let me tell you about Bay Area Modern Medical Center, a very different kind of approach to primary care. Personalized preventative medicine, not a one-pill-fits-all mentality. Christopher Lugo and his experienced medical staff are proactive in looking at issues before they become a problem, encouraging a healthy lifestyle with proper diet, supplements, and exercise to optimize your active lifestyle. Rather than the impersonal, rushed approach, you will be the only patient and will have our full attention. That's new. Getting old is inevitable, but feeling and looking old is avoidable. Bay Area Modern Medical Centers are experts in anti-aging regenerative medicine that optimizes your body's performance in many areas. So call for an appointment to get started on a journey back to full health and a happy life with a new, modern way of healthcare. Call 844-977-3477 or go to BAMMC.com. That's 844-977-3477 or BAMMC.com.
Hey, JP here for the Gold and Diamond Source. There's been a lot of talk about lab-grown diamonds. Oh, they're just like the real thing. No, they're not. They're not the real thing. They're lab-grown. They're fake. You want to give your honey a fake diamond? Not a good way to start off the relationship, folks. Take my word for it. Get the real thing, and no place better to shop than the Gold and Diamond Source. And remember, if you shop anywhere else, you don't know if it's real. You don't know what you're buying. The Gold and Diamond Source has been in business for over 40 years. Julie and Steve Weintraub, great benefactors in our community. You know it's real. It's the only place to shop. And if you're planning to purchase for the holidays, don't forget to take advantage of our layaway offer at the Gold and Diamond Source. You can reserve your favorite piece now and pay in easy installments, making your holiday shopping stress-free. As always, we offer up to 5 years interest-free financing for just $84 a month when you finance $5,000. It's the only place to shop for the holidays. It's the Golden Diamond Source, 3800 Overton Road, always online at thegoldendiamondsource.com.
Hey, Tampa Bay sports fans. This is two-time LPGA major champion Jane Geddes here. After winning the U.S. Open and 10 other LPGA events, I wanted to try something completely different. So I came right off the top turnbuckle and landed in the crazy world of WWE. And yes, you heard that right. That's WWE. Working for the Vince McMahon as the VP of Talent Relations for the company. Now, though, I want to work for you. Everything I've done in my life, I've done with incredible passion. And now I've turned my focus to leading the best real estate team in Tampa Bay, the Geddes Gordon Group with Keller Williams in South Tampa. If you're looking for a new home, an investment property, or looking to sell your current home, we will give you major championship level service. When you choose Geddes Gordon Group, you become part of our inner circle, like family. So if you're looking for a few golf tips or a golf course view, we're going to stripe it right down the fairway. Call me at 813-485-6808 or go to gettysgordongroup.com, or again, give me a ring at 813-485-6808.
Let's go.
Right now, back to the show on FanStream Sports.
Wednesday. We thank you guys so much for joining us. We thank all of our sponsors, Bay Area Modern Medical Center, Italiano Insurance, the Golden Diamond Source, the Geddes Gordon Group for all your real estate needs, thirdgenerationplumbing.com, John Rodriguez, longtime baseball fan here in Tampa Bay. He would love to see that Tampa Stadium. And Cafe Paradiso, our good friend Palatini, he too would love to see.
Alotini.
Yeah, Alotini. I bet our good friend Ken Hagel from the Hillsborough County Commission has been to Cafe Paradiso once or twice. Hopefully he's on the line. Ken, you there?
He's ready to go.
What's up, Ken?
Yes, sir.
How are you, my friend?
Yes, sir. I'm doing well, buddy. How you been?
Oh, man, up in it, man. Up in it. I got to first say one thing, because you've been in politics for a long, long time. And I sat through a full commission meeting yesterday for the first time. And good Lord, my man, you don't get paid enough. How the hell do you sit through those things and all the public comments? Whatever they're paying you, it ain't enough. That's crazy stuff.
That's an understatement. Certainly requires a lot of patience and a lot of alcoholic beverages, if you will. Kind of gets you through.
I'll drink to that.
All right. So first question. The first, is Tampa back in? Is Tampa available for business?
Well, certainly that's my desire. Over the last couple of weeks, I've been laying the groundwork with our team. So when that time comes, I don't know if that's going to be today, tomorrow, or 6 months from now, but we're going to be ready. We're having a meeting tomorrow with all of our partners, Mayor Castor, Eric Hart, the Sports Authority, County Administrator, and just to make sure that we're all on the same team. We're all, reading from the same hymn, if you will. And so I'm ready for that day. But again, right now, I do need to stress our primary focus right now is to ensure a seamless transition from Tropicana Field to Steinbrenner Field this season, working very closely with the New York Yankees, with the Rays, and with Major League Baseball to make sure that, again, that's a smooth transition, not only for the team, but more importantly for our fans. And I do want to give a shout out and a thanks to Hal Steinbrenner, Tony Bruno, and the entire Yankee organization, because if it were not for them, they would not be playing in Tampa this year. And so while Hillsborough County owns Steinbrenner Field, it's ultimately their decision. And they've been wonderful partners. And so I do want to thank them. But without a doubt, that's our primary focus right now. And a lot of work's going to end up going into that, particularly with the Sports Authority, with Eric Hart and his team. We're going to help out with operations and do everything we can to make this a seamless transition, to make it a successful season. I believe it'll sell out every game.
I do
and
too.
It's going to be a wonderful experience. So that's what we're focusing on now. But when the time comes, we're going to be ready, and we're going to be respectful of the process. We're going to let things play out over in Pinellas and St. Pete. And should that opportunity come, we'll be ready.
That's incredible stuff to hear that you guys are so proactive. And I think a lot of people in your constituents are happy to hear that. And I'm going to get back to Steinbrenner in a moment. We'll celebrate what's about to happen there, as I think it's really cool. But I want to get to the primary question that I get all the time. Does Hillsborough have any money? And I've fought this for so long. Everybody, it's a false narrative. I say it's a false narrative that has been promulgated by the Rays and the Times and everybody else. There was no corporate support in Tampa. That's a lie. I was part of that. I know that's not true. That there's no money over here. As you've said many times, there's no upfront money, huge bubble of upfront money that you can take like St. Pete did, but it's a pay-as-you-go type thing and a true public-private partnership where everybody benefits, unlike this terrible deal that they tried to execute in St. Pete and is falling apart. So the question to you is, does Tampa and Hillsborough County, with a willing partner that may not be Stu Sternberg, do you have the ability to make this happen and everybody says with the Bucs maybe knocking on your door in a few years as well?
Well, there's a lot to cover there, but the number one, the devil is in the detail. The devil is in the details, which I've always said. Number two, I've always stated that first and foremost, we're going to protect the taxpayers. We're not going to offer something that it's a raw deal. And in our model, it is creative based. However, it is primarily driven by creating an entertainment district that's fee based by every beer, Coke, hot dog that's purchased. A portion goes toward the ballpark, similar model to Texas Rangers in Arlington. It would include, in all likelihood, creating a CDD where essentially the property owners are taxing themselves to go toward the facility. We'll be using tourist tax dollars that, again, have very limited uses. It cannot go toward schools or fire rescue or law enforcement. It has to be toward infrastructure, stadiums or marketing, and then ultimately creating a CRA, a community redevelopment area, where, again, those funds are limited to that particular area. And in our model, I guess the answer is we do not have the same upfront dollar capability and capacity as Pinellas. I admit that, always have.
Mm-hmm.
However, the offer that we made last year provided significantly more money than the offer in St. Pete. However, it did not include the same upfront money because, first and foremost, we're protecting the taxpayers, and it's you use the term pay-as-you-go, which is accurate. I like to use the term but for the development, we will not have the revenue streams. However, all the financial and economists that have been working on this model agree that when the ballpark is developed, the development is going to occur around it. It requires the team to put in more money up front and assume more of the risk on the front end.
Right.
But long term, they're going to make a hell of a lot more money. And so you have to have a willing and financially able partner to go with that model. And for whatever reason, both in 2019 and again last year, they essentially took your ball and went home and decided toward the St. Pete model. Although, by their own admission, they would earn significantly more money and be much more sustainable and profitable in Tampa in the long term.
That's a great answer. So the answer is yes, you do have the money and the model that has worked in other places. And I think that's what's important here. It worked in Atlanta. It worked in Arlington. My co-host here, Tim, we've talked about this. It worked, right, Tim? And because there was a willing owner.
Yes, because there was a willing owner, and both teams or both parties, the city, the county, and the owner of the organization, whether it was Jerry Jones or Ray Davis with the Rangers, were able to come to an agreement, and it was sensible for both parties, and it worked. And it didn't take all of this back and forth and all of the what we have going on in Tampa right now. And as an outsider not living there, it's honestly a little maddening. I'll be honest.
Well, it certainly doesn't need to take 14 plus years.
No.
And I spent several years ago, I had the opportunity to spend a day with the Braves CEO and toured not only the ballpark, but the Battery, and it was briefed on the entire process. And in a nutshell, they brokered that deal in 2 months.
Yep.
And 2.5 years later, they were playing ball. They tripled their tax base. You see the incredible development that occurred, but for or only because of the ballpark.
Yeah.
It's a similar model, but the team came forward with their money up front. Let's make this deal work. And they had a sense of urgency. And for most of the 14 years, up until the last several years, they really didn't share that sense of urgency to get something done. Now they do, without question. But if they would have had that same intensity and that same sense of urgency years ago, they'd already be playing in Ybor City.
That's right. And everybody would be making money, and this would be a wonderful, wonderful situation. I don't think that's a point that needs to be just thrown under the rug, because all of what we're dealing with now, a stadium that that was well past its time, and there should have been more urgency. And with a responsible owner, in my opinion, they would have said this drop is not going to last. It's, and people could say all they want, like, who could have predicted that a hurricane would blow the roof off? Well, me, anyone with eyes, a fabric roof in Hurricane Alley. I mean, that's 10 years past its lifespan. It's pretty predictable, actually. So it happened, and now they have a lot more urgency, and which has kind of led to a lot of this. But a couple of the procedural questions. The SITS tax just passed again. Is that money usable for this particular project?
Yes, it would be. Now, I will tell you, I mean, we've got some significant, challenges that are coming down the road with respect to Ray J, Amalie Arena. In addition to that, I'm championing two athletic facilities. One that's an indoor facility that would host everything from basketball, volleyball, cheerleading tournaments, and then an outdoor baseball, softball complex that we've got our consultant reports. We've set aside some seed money. And so those are projects, one or both, will likely compete for these dollars. And so that's why, candidly, we're somewhat in a time crunch or sense of urgency as well, as we need to know what what the needs are going to be so we can determine the capacity. We know we're going to have significant renovation with Raymond James Stadium. Unfortunately, the Buccaneers have not communicated with us up to this point as far as what they're looking for. So we don't know what that's going to be, but we do know that a renovation is going to be needed in the next several years. We do know if we ever hope to host another Super Bowl, that must happen. The NFL has told Rob Higgins and the Sports Commission that. So we know those needs are coming, and we just have to communicate, number one, with all the teams and know what they're thinking, what they believe the needs are, what their investment's going to be. And that was a big part of the, I will give the Buccaneers credit because I was heavily involved in the last renovation agreement.
Yeah, they
had significant skin in the game.
Yeah.
Number one. Number two, they assumed all cost overrides, which were significant, and we improved the revenue sharing for the taxpayer. So that was truly a win-win all the way around. And it's
a willing partner. A willing partner working with you guys
partner.
to come together for the
Yeah.
betterment of the community. Wow, what a concept!
Absolutely. That's going to be paramount. And of course, with that, then we would lock the team in for an additional, 30 plus years. So those are some serious conversations that are going to happen in the upcoming months and years. And so we just need to the best extent we can, to be transparent, to communicate with all the parties, and just know what the needs are. And then we can do our best to come up with the creative models to make it all work.
Ken Hagel joining us here, Hillsborough County Commissioner. And Ken, I have spoken to one person in particular that told me, and I vetted him, and I believe this to be true because he has the money. I can't mention his name, that he was trying to buy the Rays a few months ago. Also told me that he didn't believe the St. Pete Stadium would ever be built, and he would want to build in Tampa. I've heard Joe Citro and other people that have been in government say there are groups out there that are wanting to buy this team and build in Tampa. I don't expect to get an answer on this, but I got to ask it. Are you hearing the same things? Is this something, and is there a site in mind?
Well, first of all, the previous location is still available in Ybor City. So let's start with that. That when things started to unravel, that was basically the first phone call I made. Hey, is this still a possibility? Should things work out? And that answer is yes. So that helped. Now, not to say that would be the only location, for potentially others, and we'll see. We'll see.
But you could use the same design. They already worked in the design. They spent all that stuff. The whole thing. Just here we go again.
Yes. Wow. So let's start with that, which is very fortunate. But again, we would likely consider other locations as well. Secondly, I'm aware of a couple of local groups in the past that were mobilized and that made an offer, without mentioning names or people and things like that. One of them, I will tell you that the feedback from MLB was that they didn't think that they had the juice.
The juice,
in so many words.
Right.
They had, they're very wealthy, but they didn't want to get into a potential situation where you're not making payroll and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
My gut, my instincts tell me that there is at least one or more groups that's mobilizing from that, as we speak. Now, whether that's from a potential investment standpoint or ownership standpoint, I don't know. Again, I can't say with any certainty or give anyone's name, but I strongly believe that either is taking place now or will take place if things continue to unravel in Pinellas County.
Extremely interesting there. All right, I want to finish up by just talking about what's about to happen in Tampa. And again, this is no disrespect to St. Pete whatsoever. I always look at this as a region. I've never looked at it as Tampa, St. Pete, and others. Maybe it's because I didn't grow up here. I've lived here for almost 30 years. I've lived on both sides of the bay. I just see it as Tampa Bay. But I understand the provincialism. But I want to celebrate the fact that the folks in Hillsborough County have been supporting this Rays team for a long time, going to games and on TV, what have you. And now they're going to get an opportunity to support it with their dollars and their attendance. I spoke with Tino Martinez the other day, who played for the Yankees, played for the Rays, grew up here. No one knows the landscape better, has played in that stadium. He could not be more thrilled. He said those tickets will sell out in a heartbeat. It's going to be nuts. I mean, I'm a little afraid that Stu will price them through the roof and price everybody out, but hopefully that won't be the case. But what's about to happen here, I think, is spectacular. It'll be a packed house every night. It's going to be a vibe. And if a group comes forward and we're moving forward in Tampa, you are going to coalesce for 3 or 4 years in that really cool stadium, by the way, and moving towards something that is going to be in where it should have always been. To me, this is such a great opportunity for the Rays. It's what's always should have happened, and this team can move forward. And I hope, no disrespect, but I hope it's going to be with a new local owner or someone that really, really has Tampa Bay's best interest in mind. I think this could be an absolute bigger than Tino's grand slam in the World Series home run. Your thoughts?
Well, first of all, it's going to be a smashing success. I'm 100% to that. I played Not recently. In the last few months, I played golf with Tino, and growing up, we competed against each other. And great guy, and I know how strongly he wants the team to be on this side. I was with Fred McGriff just last night, and we were talking about it, and other athletes, Jason Romano, other local MLB stars that have shared similar sentiments. And one thing I do want to say, and I'm going to give the Rays credit, in that it really, I mean, again, from a fan perspective, from elected official in Hillsborough County, I'm thrilled that it's going to be at Steinbrenner Field right here in Tampa. But it really makes the most sense financially for the team. Steinbrenner Field is highest capacity. It's the most MLB ready of Dunedin and Clearwater, which are great ballparks. I go to a couple games a year, spring training games at those facilities. I love going over there. But it really, the Rays are going to get crushed revenue-wise this year. And this alternative gives them the best opportunity to maximize their already reduced revenue stream. So it makes the most sense. And that's why I don't blame some of the commissioners in Pinellas County. I know a lot of people do, but from an elected standpoint, they've got to look out for the taxpayers. They've got priorities. And for new commissioners, they shouldn't be asked to vote on something their very first meeting. I mean, we go through that every cycle with our board on much smaller projects, 1 million, 2 million, 5 million that a previous board approved. Yet a new board comes in and they may have different priorities. So I don't fault them on that. But they made the right decision, and I'm looking forward to it. I think not only for the team, but also for the fans. And it's going to be a smashing success. And we'll see how things play out.
Can you expand that? There's a lot of room in left field and the outfield. I don't know if that's a retention pond or what. I don't know about the engineering, but there's room to expand Steinbrenner and add considerably more seats. I'm talking about maybe 3,000 to 7,000 more. Is that something that we're thinking about doing? Any other embellishments they're going to add? I know they're going to make it very Rays friendly with the temporary signage, which is cool. But what else? What can you tell us about that part of it?
Honestly, I'm unaware of any plans to dramatically change the configuration. Just being familiar with the complex, I think you lose a lot of seats by having right field and the way they have it laid out there. I guess in theory you could eliminate some of that social sitting stuff, and you could erect temporary stands or additional stands there. I guess just thinking on the top of my head, but I don't believe there's going to be any dramatic increase in capacity. That'll be a conversation. I'm actually going to see CEO Eric Hart here over lunch, and I'll ask him that. But I don't think that's going to occur. But one thing again, I want to stress: we are working the Yankees, the Sports Authority, very closely with the Rays, with the Yankees, with MLB to make this as smooth and transition as possible for the team. And I'm really looking forward to it.
Can't wait, partner. I think it's going to be outstanding. Anything else you want to say or that I've forgotten to ask you about this process?
I don't think so. I think that, we're going to continue to be respectful of the process. We're going to see how things play out. And when that time comes, again, I don't know if that's today, tomorrow, or a year from now, we're going to be ready to have that conversation, and we're going to do everything we can to make it happen, to ensure that the team remains here in Tampa Bay for generations to come.
Well, Ken, listen, I've said it many, many times. As I said about Tino, I mean, you didn't hit any World Series home runs, but you played some serious college ball at the Gators. You've grown up with this. I know it's something that's near and dear to your heart, and you're passionate about it. And just in Steinbrenner Field alone, it's going to be a great realization for you and many people who've grown up in this Tampa area that have been waiting to show their passion for this team. And I think it's going to be a huge success. So congratulations for your diligence and your courage in the face of a lot of negativity. You and I have shared a lot of that together. So I appreciate your courage. I appreciate your courage, and let's see this thing through. I hope it happens. No Steinbrenner happen, but the big ticket, hopefully we'll see.
No, amen. And again, I want to thank you for your kind words and generosity, and especially for fighting a good fight, because you've been taking a hell of a lot of arrows here through the years, as I have. Yes. And I've just said you never say never, and the door's always been left open, and you never know.
All right.
So.
Thanks, Ken. Appreciate your time. Thank
Bye.
you. Tell Eric I said
Bye, buddy.
hello.
Take it easy.
And watch out for
All right,
snakes.
we'll do. Bye.
Old Hurricane Helene put a hurting on Tampa Bay, and for many of you, the rebuild will be a long process. You must beware of unscrupulous contractors offering up quick fixes for incredible prices. It's a scam. So go with long-standing reputable companies like Third Generation Plumbing and AC. My friend John Rodriguez has been serving Tampa Bay since 1995 with hundreds of five-star reviews. If you need a new AC system or any home repairs from Helene, they will work with insurance companies to get you taken care of quickly, expertly installed, of course, and a 1-year maintenance plan and 10-year warranty included on all AC units. 0% financing for 60 months. Contact them at thirdgenerationplumbing.com or 813-961-8024. That's 813-961-8024, thirdgenerationplumbing.com. So many of our Tampa Bay neighbors are finding out the hard way from Hurricane Helene that homeowners insurance does not cover flood damage. You must have flood insurance. It's a separate policy. Immediately call Italiano Insurance at 813-877-7799, and they will shop around to find the best policy before rates go up. Lock it in. Over 60% are underinsured in Florida, or you're not getting your discounts that you're entitled to. So do an insurance checkup at Italiano, and they could save you thousands of dollars. Italiano will make sure you're with a highly rated insurer, so there are no surprises in your time of need. Our hearts go out to all our neighbors devastated by Helene. These are the times we're proud to protect all the pieces of your life. Italiano Insurance, 813-877-7799. Hey, it's football season, and we welcome back the Gator Report every Monday and Friday, sponsored by the Jeeves Law Group, Jeeves lawgroup.com. Just go to the website. You can contact them through there. Scott Jeeves is a tremendous, aggressive attorney and a big Gator fan, so we appreciate him supporting this show and, of course, your Florida Gators. They are local, they are trusted, and they get results. Whether it's personal injury or anything else, any law matter at all, it's the Jeeves Law Group, Jeeves lawgroup.com. Give them a call. Tell them JP sent you.
Ciao, Paolo Tini here, owner of Caffè Paradiso, one of South Tampa premier traditional Italian restaurant. We were recently voted number 3 on Open Table list of Tampa Bay's top 10 restaurants. We're very proud of that because we take great care of preparing each dish by hand with homemade sauces, pastas, only the freshest local ingredients. You won't see the big institutional vendor trucks pulling up to our back door. We get our seafood from local vendors. Sometimes I even drive out to Tarpon Springs and pick out our daily catch right off those boats. So stop by and say hello. Try our traditional lasagna, the fresh veal, some of our signature dishes like capelli al granchio, that is angel hair with lump crab meat, our branzino, that is a sea bass. We're located at 4205 South McDill, and you can make a reservation on Open Table and read all the great reviews. See you soon. Ciao. Grazie.
Let's go.
Right now, back to the show on FanStream Sports.
All right, welcome back to the JP Peterson Show here. An interview I've been looking forward to for quite some time. I want to welcome in Chris Latvala. Hope I'm saying that correctly, Chris. Am I pronouncing that correctly? Of the Pinellas County Commission. Welcome into the show. Really appreciate you jumping in here. And first and foremost, I want to establish you as the Rays fan that you are, because I heard you do an interview yesterday, and I said, this dude knows the prospects. He's been around forever. Let these people know how much you love the Rays and how much you love baseball. You've been around since the Esteban Gone days, which I just love. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah,
Those gigantic,
I remember,
right?
I remember going to the games and, late 90s, early 2000s. And, when we had a lead in the 7th inning and certain members of the Rays bullpen got in the game was effectively over. And so, the Lou Piniella days, were a lot of fun. The Quentin McCracken, Damian Rolls, Aubrey Huff, the Hit Show. Vince Namoli, of course,
right.
And so I'm a Rays fan through and through. And, the current regime of the Rays, has some of the brightest baseball minds in the MLB. Several general managers and front office folks around the league got their start in Tampa Bay.
Right.
And so, whether it's, the Willie Adames trade when he was a throw-in, and he turned into who he was. We fleeced the Mets in trades. We have bright front office people, and I used to complain when we traded veterans, but now it's okay. Well, we get Isak Paredes. I'm going to keep my mouth shut because he's going to end up becoming an all-star, somebody that I've never heard of. And so and Kevin Cash does a great job and turns in, we get a new bullpen, it seems like every year. And they just, I think the Rays invented the opener.
Yes, we did.
And now that's used all throughout the game. Even the Dodgers used it this year in the World Series, and they have one of the highest payrolls.
Yeah.
And so, from a baseball perspective, the Rays, are geniuses.
Yeah.
And they're really inventive of, and I think really Joe Maddon started that, thinking outside the box and in 08 and the years after that. And I remember the 08 season waiting on the Rays to, take a plunge in the standings, and that never happened. And a lot of that reason was because of Joe Maddon.
Yeah, best team we ever had.
Yeah.
By far. Well, we've established you as a longtime Rays fans, and I think what people probably need to know here is that you love baseball and you want the Rays here, but this is not the deal to get it done. It may not be the time to get it done with the Pinellas County Commission approving not $312 million, but $600 million with interest, because you have to pay interest on bonds. And that's why I always say, it's always printed as $312 million. It's not that. It's way more than that. And it's a lot of money. It's the most you guys have ever given anybody, anything, anywhere. And delaying a vote may not be a horrible idea. Just tell everybody where you are on this deal right now.
Yeah. In July at the meeting, I said, okay, if it's $300 million and we can do $10 million a year for 30 years, I'm a yes. If it's $300 million and we can do $30 million a year for 10 years, I'm a yes. That's not how it works. With construction costs and all that, we have to front the money. And so we don't have that sitting in the bank, so we would have to finance it. And so the financing would be over 30 years, would be over $600 million. So when you count what the county is contributing, when you count what the city is contributing, it's over $1 billion.
Public money.
That's before the land deal that the Rays are getting that's separate. That's before that's even put on the table. And there's estimates that that's going to be in the hundreds of millions of dollars as well.
Yeah.
And so when you look at it from the totality, and the reason that I gave for opposing it being one of two votes in July, and you can go back and look at the meeting, I mentioned two things. I mentioned the beaches and beach nourishment, and I mentioned the possibility of if we have a hurricane in future years. I didn't know that hurricane would come a couple months later.
Right.
And we had two of them. I mentioned the beaches and beach nourishment, and I mentioned the land deal as the two reasons. And I also mentioned if we could, if it was just $300 million and not having to finance it, I would have been a yes. Yeah. And so I just didn't, I love baseball, but more important than that, I'm a county commissioner that has to answer to my constituents.
And you've been vilified for this, and I think unfairly so. I wasn't thrilled when it appeared you were trying to hold the Rays hostage to play in Pinellas County, because I knew Baycare Park wasn't ready for that, and Steinbrenner was, and I think that's something you may have learned since then. And I understand it with the money. And by the way, why don't you ask the Rays to do a ticket package where the people have to stay in Pinellas County when they come to Rays games in Tampa? That would be a nice thing. Like, we'll give you a lower ticket price for your package if you book it. And people are going to stay at the beach anyway if they come to see the Rays. At least I would. If I'm coming from Boston and New York, I'm not staying in downtown Tampa. I'm going to the beach. But anyway,
well, the Rays didn't talk to anybody.
Exactly. I was leading up to this.
And I go to, whether it's Threshers games or whether whether it's Phillies spring training games, I've been to that stadium a bunch of times. I've never taken a tour of their, clubhouse. I've never taken a tour of, the baseball part of it.
Right.
So I'm not familiar with, okay, this is up to MLB standards. This isn't.
Right.
All they had to do is say, hey, this makes playing in Clearwater more difficult. I knew from being a baseball fan that in 2021, Dunedin had Major League Baseball games during the regular season. Yeah, that stadium is a lot smaller than Steinbrenner.
Right.
But, my biggest complaint was we're using the tourist bed tax dollars to pay for this stadium. And if they're not playing in Pinellas, we're using up the very sources that we're not going to be able to recoup by them not playing here. And so that was my big complaint. And I also had and have concerns that the trop will be able to be repaired. And they weren't really talking about that either. And that's more the city, the city concern, not the county concern. Well, what happens if the Rays decide to play in Steinbrenner for the next 3 or 4 years?
Right.
I mean, that's 10% of the time that we're going to be financing this deal. And if they're not playing in Pinellas County, that's a big problem.
Yeah.
Because in the it was like 1994, 95, whatever year that original contract use agreement was between the city and the Rays or the baseball team. It basically states that St. Petersburg has to provide a place for them to play. Well, now they don't have a place for them to play. So there's an argument to be made that the Rays could just say, okay, instead of repairing the trop, give us X amount of dollars. And okay, well, if that happens, they're not going to be in Pinellas County.
Yeah.
So, it's my job to look out for my constituents, look out for our residents and our taxpayers. And so, I'm not just going to say, okay, we'll go have fun in Tampa and I'll drive across the bridge and watch a game.
And the fact that Rays didn't come to the county commission, they're not coming to the vote today, I believe, right? I think I've read that.
I mean, I hope they're there. They weren't at the last meeting. I hope they're there today.
Have you talked to them recently? Have you had any contact with them?
Not particularly, no.
And I got to ask you this: what do you think's happening in the vote today? All right, and what would your vote be if you had to vote today?
I mean, a no vote effectively kills the deal, and I don't want to kill the deal. And so, I would be, in favor of just delaying it and seeing, okay, because we have until March to approve the bonds.
Yeah, well, that's the other thing. The original deadline was March to approve the bonds, and here, and if I can bring Stu into this, he's like, I'm killing the deal now because we've got, according to him. And by the way, I'm not going to take everything that he says and says to the Times as gospel because we've been fooled many, many times before. Right. He's been very disingenuous about things, and so I'm not just going to take it on face value. How is it you can't go forward when the deadline was originally March anyway? That doesn't work for me. Does that work for you guys?
Well, and you've been around, long enough to know that he's used this tactic for 10 years.
Yes, absolutely. I've highlighted it well on my show.
I'm going here, so, and it's interesting that he always uses a particular reporter and a particular newspaper to,
I've had issues with that as well. They don't, I know Channel 10 sent some questions over there, Elvin Klosky. Right. They're not answered. We've tried why not do a press conference? We're talking about the biggest expenditure in the history of the county and the city. Right. And we can't have the owner do a press conference and be accountable to all media instead of just talking to one. And
I really feel bad for the position that the Rays are in.
I do too.
And the fact that the trop was damaged. 40,000 houses in Pinellas County suffered severe damage as a result of the 2 hurricanes. The Rays are not the only business in town that was devastated by the hurricanes.
Right.
We don't go around giving $1 billion to each of those businesses.
That's right.
And so I would expect, them to come to the table and say, okay, the situation is different than it was. Yeah. And, I find it, ironic that the county commission delayed one time and he's saying, okay, they're not good partners. When if you go back a year ago, when, it's first starting, or maybe even more than a year ago, and you look, it was consistently delayed at the city council level. We're having a meeting this week to vote on it. Oh no, we're pushing it back a month. Well, it wasn't because they were worried about the votes. I can give you that much. It was because there were people that were negotiating that wanted to add things to it.
Yeah.
And those people were not the city or the county. And so
that was the Rays. It was the Rays asking for everything. Right. Yeah, this has been called by people who have worked, by former mayors and people that have worked in county administrating and have done other deals that have looked at the deal as the worst deal we've ever seen in a stadium. It's the smallest city municipality to ever give the biggest corporate welfare tax subsidy for a stadium ever. I mean, the deal is terrible. It's been terrible from the beginning, in my opinion. And to me, I just see a county commissioner who's standing up to it and saying, I love baseball. I want baseball to stay here, but this is not fiscally responsible. And put on top of it now, an estimated $60 million in repairs. I've seen the pictures. Yeah. It's way more than that. And that's by visual estimates, by the way, folks. That's not engineers getting in there and actually seeing what's there. This is going to be over, I'm saying, close to $100 million. You're going to try and repair the trop and then blow it up 2 years later, 3 years later. And the mayor actually called this fiscally responsible. I don't get that. I don't get that. I know you met with the mayor yesterday. What transpired?
Yeah, I mean, the mayor and I are on opposite political spectrums. But I believe that he's an honest guy, and certainly he wants the Rays to stay, and he's trying to keep the deal together. And it was a productive meeting, and I don't want to speak for him, but I don't think the Rays are really talking to too many people in town.
Do you think they're trying to get out of the deal, and so Stu can take the real estate money, the huge windfall there of $600-700 million, and maybe sell the team? Do you think it seems like to me, if I really wanted to get the deal done, I'd be number one talking to Pinellas and saying, "Hey, sorry we didn't talk to you guys, but here's the deal and why we had to go." And I'm sure Major League Baseball had a big say in that. It just wasn't the Rays, but he hasn't done any of that.
I think when you have tried for 10 years to say, if we don't get what we want, we're leaving town, and you don't show up to a meeting when they're voting to give you $300 million, well, actually $600 million.
I'll correct you.
And then there's another meeting, and the county commission makes it clear, hey, we want you to stay in Pinellas County, talk to us. And at the meeting that we had last week, or week before last, several of my colleagues said, we haven't talked to them. We want them to stay in Pinellas. I was not the only one.
Right.
An hour after that meeting, they had a press conference or a press release with the Yankees saying we're playing in Tampa. I mean, that's not how you conduct business. So, I mean, if I'm trying to get out of a deal, I go to the newspaper and say, oh, well, they postponed one meeting, deal's off. Well, we still have 3 or 4 months to try to get something together. And
may I jump in here and say, and unfairly in that report, by the way, and that whole article that John Romano wrote, it basically painted you as the villain. You as the villain, and you got death threats so much so they had to arrest somebody. I hope you and your family are safe. That's just unconscionable. And there was nobody standing up saying, except maybe me, hey, wait a minute. It's not this guy's fault. He was a no vote to begin with anyway.
Right.
What are we doing? Why are we putting it on him? Come on now.
And for 2 years, the Times has written several times that, oh, by the way, the Phillies gave a political donation to his father, which was $10,000. Political donation, not a personal donation. They have never reported, oh, by the way, the Rays also gave his father a political donation. Those political donations total up to $30,000.
Oh, interesting. And we didn't put that in the story?
No. And for 2 years, I've asked them, hey, please make this correction. Saturday, I emailed them, hey, please make this correction. And John Romano wrote back and said, I don't believe that this is relevant. I don't understand how him getting a Phillies donation is relevant to a Rays vote, but my father getting Rays donations is not relevant to me voting on a Rays stadium.
It's absolutely relevant, 100%. Right. And
then bizarrely in the same email, and I posted it online, he said, you also didn't mention that the Rays gave $1 million to the Tampa Bay Beaches Chamber of Commerce for hurricane relief. Well, I'm a Rays fan, but I don't work in their PR department. It's not my job to go on the county commission and say, hey, by the way, did y'all see that the Rays gave $1 million to hurricane relief?
Yeah, absolutely not. Do you trust Stu Sternberg? I mean, he was sued by his partners. I read that whole lawsuit. It's full of a lot of bad allegations. And I've said this before on my program. If I was giving away this much money to a billionaire, I would certainly want to make sure that I'm dealing with somebody on the up and up and really has Tampa Bay and St. Petersburg as their as something they want to champion. And at every turn, Stu Sternberg has said St. Petersburg is not a major league city. We cannot exist here. He's dogged St. Petersburg as a site for years, said he wanted to move to Tampa, and suddenly he got a deal where he got everything, and now St. Pete is a place to play. I think that's a little disingenuous, but he wanted to get the deal done. We've noted what a terrible deal it is for the taxpayers, something you don't agree with. Do you trust to do business with Stu Sternberg in this situation?
Well, Stu Sternberg and I have different priorities, I believe. And I've actually met him twice. The first time being about a year ago. The first time we met was at a social charity event. And we actually talked about Rays baseball. And I was complimenting him on the minor league system that they've developed and how it was good every year. And then we've had one meeting about the stadium, but he's not who I talked to or dealt with on the stadium matters. And, we have different priorities. His priority is to make the most money as possible for his team. Kudos to him. That's part of running a business. He's done very well with the Rays. I believe that they probably turn a profit every year because of revenue sharing, TV deal, things like that.
A handsome profit.
Yeah. And they to his credit, they have a competitive team. Regardless.
Yeah, but we'd all like to see a little bit more payroll. We'd all like to see that. And once again today, they were shown that they're third worst in the league in free agent spending in the last few years. He has the money.
But they do the best with what they put on the field. They're a competitive product.
They do.
My priority, though, is I want the best deal possible for the taxpayer, and the best deal for our residents. I would not put him in the same league as a Jeff Vinnick. When it comes to community relations, I would not. When he's no longer the owner of the Rays, he's not going to be a around in the community. He's not.
I would agree with that.
He's not going to be, like even the Steinbrenner family. They're active, in Tampa, or the Glazer family, or people like that.
They've done a great job. Yes.
Right. And so he has different priorities, and I don't fault him for that. But his main priority is, getting the most money as he possibly can, and so. That's just his deal.
How do you think this deal can be saved and be responsible to the taxpayers? Do you think the Rays would agree to put in more money or do this differently? There's a huge amount of money available in this real estate deal that could be put towards the stadium. I know he's allowed to sell that. He could literally sell it tomorrow to Hines for what it's really worth, up to $600 to $700 million. The other acreage, just sell the team and walk with the money. Like that, and that's what we've heard that could ask something I predicted 2 months ago, by the way, and the stadium would never be built. Do you think that's possible?
Oh, I mean, that's certainly possible. And that's what some of our frustration was in July. I have not spoken to my colleagues, of course, because of the sunshine law. I saw a article this morning in the Times, that talked about what some of my colleagues were thinking. And it does seem like, some that were no's could be persuaded to yeses by doing something similar to what you said. And, hey, business is different than it was just a few months ago. We had two hurricanes.
Yes.
And, nobody wants to see baseball leave, but, some of us that said this wasn't a friendly deal in July, now 2 hurricanes later, it certainly is not a friendly deal when we don't know what the Army Corps is going to do with the beaches.
And that money, by the way, I think another misnomer is that this money can only be used for stadiums and some other things, but it can also be used for beach renourishment and things, right? That money could be used for things that bring more people in. So it's something, right?
And we're currently in a fight with the federal government and the Army Corps of Engineers, because for decades that was something that the Army Corps of Engineers did. Now they're not doing it. They're saying that residents along the beaches have to sign easements over, which is a private property issue that I'm not going to bore sports fans with. But that's something that's never going to happen because you have to get 100% of those property owners to do that.
Okay.
I believe that the federal government should do that. But if they don't, we're going to have to pay for that ourselves. And also FEMA has said if you pay for it yourselves and a hurricane or any kind of storm comes, you will not get FEMA reimbursement. So that also puts us behind the 8 ball. And
part of the reason you're delaying the vote to find out how that's going to pan out. And you have an owner that's saying, I don't care that you've had hurricanes. It's just like no, if you delay it, I'm out. Even though the deadline was March, if you delay, I'm out. I mean, come on. I mean, it's a little.
So the vote to delay was 6-1. Right. The vote to approve the project in July was 5-2. 5 people for, 2 people against.
It's a reasonable
to after the hurricane. The vote to delay was 6-1. So you do the math, and there's several people that voted for the project. Then said, okay, wait, let's delay this because there are now variables that we don't, we were not expecting that we need to have some time on. And then you have Stu saying, oh, well, they're no longer, partners and, baseball may be gone.
So the bottom line is on this, Chris, if there was a renegotiation of this, given the terms, and the fact that the Trop has to be rebuilt, and that's another huge expenditure.
Yeah.
I mean, is it the worst thing in the world if the deal gets scuttled? And I don't think they're leaving Tampa Bay, by the way. I don't think Major League Baseball is leaving the 11th largest market with the 18th largest market right down the road in Orlando. That's not happening. It doesn't fit their business model. They have a lot of national television contracts that are tied to that. It's not happening. And if the team did go back to Tampa and found a home there, your constituents would still be able to go to Rays games. Yeah. So it's not the worst thing. I was in Atlanta when the Braves did that deal, and the mayor said, look, I don't have money for the Falcons and you. If you want to go to Cobb County, that's great. Fine. I don't have to pay for it. My constituents can still have the Braves. And that has been a tremendous deal for Cobb County and the Braves. They won a Super Bowl using that money, or a World Series using that money. So it's not the worst thing in the world. We want the Rays to stay, and it's best for the area. And I've always said this, Chris, St. Pete and Pinellas, we're a family here. You guys have the beaches, the beautiful beaches that we love. That's why we live here.
You have a beautiful downtown. You have the PGA Tour event that's there. That's unbelievable in Innisbrook. You have the Pelican. I was just there on
the Annika.
The event. You have the Grand Prix that's there. You have soccer, and that all works so great there. The beautiful downtown. It's just, in my opinion, it's not the place for a baseball stadium because of the location. It's you don't need it, by the way. Build a convention center or a cruise port with that money, and you'll get a lot better return, by the way. Right. And you can still go to Rays games. That seems to me like the best alternative. I know you want the Rays to stay in St. Pete, but that's where I'm coming from.
If they go to Tampa, I'm completely fine. My feelings will not be hurt, and it will save us a ton of money. Yeah. So, and I would be the first one that is shaking whoever brings them to Tampa's hands. And I would offer to buy tickets to go and see them. I just don't think, $1 billion to keep them in St. Pete is worth it. And if we're paying them, they need to be in Pinellas. That's been my whole argument. Whether they play in Pinellas or Hillsborough, if they want to play in Hillsborough, I'm fine with it full time. If they play in Hillsborough while Pinellas County's paying them, that's another issue.
I totally get that as well. I just think, if we looked at this from a regional standpoint, that's what we would do. And the constant in this whole thing, and people say, oh, Tampa doesn't have the money, Hillsborough doesn't have the money. Right. They don't have the money that St. Pete did to give up front. But in the long run, the Rays would make more money with the deal that Hillsborough offered. Oh, yeah. I think it's a much more reasonable deal for the taxpayers. It's responsible to the taxpayers. And Tampa could get it done. The reason it hasn't been done is the same constant. It's never been done. And that's Stu Sternberg. Because he wants everything and gives nothing. It's always a one-way conversation. Right. That's what I've heard from the people that have negotiated with him. I was part of the Rays 100 when we did the deal, and we've constantly told there was no corporate support. That's a bold-faced lie. We had tons of corporate support. And so if there was new ownership and MLB forced new ownership, there would be a deal done within months in Hillsborough County. That's my opinion. And it would be best for the area. And you guys could build a beautiful convention center and make way more money. You think about it. It's actually $2.4 billion cost to taxpayers totally. You talk about the lost real estate deal, the interest on the payments. It's $2.4 billion to taxpayers in Pinellas and in the city of St. Pete. And you could sell that in the Kreisman plan for over $1 billion. That's a $3 billion switch. And you'd have a much better downtown. You'd have a much better. And as you said, if you put this up for a vote in Pinellas County and St. Pete, what do you think the margin would be? I think it would be 70-30 against.
Yeah. I mean, I was going to say over 60% against, but you might be right that it would be closer to 70. Because do I want a new stadium or Rays stadium? Absolutely. Ask anybody on the street, do you want a new Rays stadium? Oh, absolutely. You want to pay $1 billion from your taxes or public funds for it? The answer would be no. No. And it'd probably, by the end of the day, it'd be over $1 billion. And, when you talk about them moving, show me another area in the country that has $600 million of public funds or more sitting on the table saying, okay, we're ready to have a sports team.
In addition to a $1.5 billion relocation fee or $1 billion relocation fee the owner would have to pay, in addition to buying the team for $2 billion.
Right.
And people just think, oh, they're going to Nashville, they're going to Portland, No. And by the way, MLB has to approve that. A move. And why would they do that to themselves? Take an expansion fee from themselves and just, oh yeah, Stu, we love you. Yeah, go. That's cool.
And the other owners would much rather have expansion than have another team relocate.
Yes, absolutely.
And so, I mean, that's why he was, literally laughed at when he wanted to do the split city concept with Montreal.
That's right.
So,
well, Chris, listen, I hope you and your family are safe.
Oh yeah.
I hope that, nothing comes of any of that stuff. And I hope people stop vilifying you for doing what your constituents voted you to do. Yeah. And I appreciate you being bold enough to stand up for this and stand up for what's right, because it's so easy to just roll over and do the wrong thing. And I appreciate your courage in doing so and speaking out about it. I do appreciate that. So
thank you very much, JP. Good
All
to
right,
be
Chris.
with you.
Appreciate it. Be well.
Well, some very interesting things there from Ken Hagel and Chris Laughlin. I hope you enjoyed the Joe Maddon and Rondé Barber interviews. as well. As far as where the Rays stand right now, of course, they're playing in Steinbrenner Field. Tickets will go on sale shortly. They just recently announced 2 trades of series with Minnesota and the Angels. So they're going to trade summer series for series they could play at Steinbrenner when it's the weather is fantastic. So they'll play 37 of their first 58 games at Steinbrenner Field, and then of course they're going to be on the road a lot of games in the summer to kind of make up for that. But I like that. They'll have a great vibe. I think the place is going to be absolutely packed. It's going to be exciting outdoor baseball. We can smell the grass. The weather's going to be nice in March, April, and May. They're going to have all these games. It's going to be fantastic. And you're going to really see what baseball in Tampa was meant to be and the energy and the passion for the game. I'm predicting sellouts galore. And I think it's just going to be a great vibe. The players are going to love it. Absolutely playing in front of a full house each and every night. And don't forget, it is a, quote, minor league stadium, but there's nothing minor league about Steinbrenner. I mean, it has all the accoutrement that you would want in a major league stadium. I think it's a better stadium than the Trop, quite frankly. Yes, there'll be some rain challenges later in the summer. We get all that. But, on average, the Tarpons have only had, who play there in that stadium, only had 6 rainouts a year. So it's not that big a deal. So anyway, I think it's going to be a great vibe, going to be fun, and I can't wait to be in that stadium and watch the Rays play. It's a beautiful, beautiful stadium. We'll also remind you, our great friends at the Golden Diamond Source, their Black Friday sale going on this week. It's their 40th anniversary, their 40th Black Friday, and the first 40 people to buy a $1,000 gift card will receive one of the 40th anniversary gold sand dollars, much coveted to commemorate our 40th anniversary there. Plus, we'll still have the $1,000 gift card match all the way up till Black Friday. This means you can buy a $1,000 gift card and they will match it, gives you up to what? $2,000 to spend. We can do the math. And on Saturday and Sunday, you can purchase up to a $500 gift card and they'll match that, giving you $1,000 to spend. You can do lower numbers as well, but you're doubling your buying power there. So, of course, it's the holidays. Make it the Golden Diamond Source. Keep that money local here, folks, so we can continue to recover from the storms. Our local businesses still need those businesses. Christmas is a big time where they make a lot of their money. So let's keep it all local, and that starts at the Gold and Diamond Source, 3800 Clearwater, Almerton Road in Clearwater. All right, folks, have a great Thanksgiving from the JP Peterson Show. We are so thankful for you, the listeners. Our views, listeners have just exploded in this past year. We're in our new studio here in South Tampa. We're hoping for great expansion in the year to come as the local radio stations and newspapers and everybody else is dropping people. We're going to give you more and more content for the year coming up. And we're so thankful for the response that we've got. We're so thankful for all of our sponsors. We love them dearly. The Jeeves Law Group here, Cafe Paradiso, Third Generation Plumbing, the Geddes Gordon Group, Italiano Insurance, Bay Area Modern Medical Center, all of our great sponsors. We thank you so much, and we're thankful for you. Have a great Thanksgiving, everybody, and we will see you for a live show on Monday.